Hey, Bo.
Hi. How's the house coming?
Oh, it's almost there. Almost ready.
Little stupid details.
Yeah. We finally, in our last week, started running into problems where the plumber didn't come when he was supposed to, and the tile guy didn't lay the last tiles right, so he had to come back last night. So all those little details that are coming together, it seems like they're all falling apart right now. But we'll see. Hopefully next Thursday, Jim will issue us an occupancy permit and we'll be done.
Nice.
Yeah. That is if we have running water, if the plumber ever comes.
Just run a hose from your mother's.
Yeah. Lynn has her. Hey, Lynn, do you have a question?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Hey, that's only taken me 10 minutes.
You made it.
I don't see anything. Oh, there it is. Now that you can hear me, I can see the mute button. Hi, Jen. Hi, Bo.
Right.
Did you have a specific question?
No, I just, I didn't, it says live on YouTube. I didn't know whether I was actually on Zoom or whether I was watching this on YouTube. I'm not savvy on, I'm not really good at Zoom. So
Nope, you're on Zoom, but we live stream it to YouTube and then it gets saved on YouTube so people can go back and watch it on YouTube anytime they want.
And I like that. And I
Yeah,
have done that, but I just was unsure whether that's the only thing that's the only thing I could see here, because I couldn't find a mute. I kept saying hi, Vika. And so anyway, here I am. I'll probably try not to hit any more buttons or you'll lose me.
yeah. Well, what I'll do is I'll unmute you and then when the meeting starts, if any questions come up specifically for anything you submitted, then we'll promote you to being able to talk, okay?
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
All right, yeah, no problem. Jay, I'm trying to promote you to panelist. It's taken a while. There he goes. Hey, Jen.
You decided not to jump in today, Jay?
I don't know. I'm not sure what Hayden's doing or not doing. There apparently has been some negotiation going on.
Ah, yeah.
A cool day to go swimming.
Be a lot of negotiation if it was me going.
My mom's finally figured out a way. She said going forward, she's gonna start raising money for not jumping in. So see how many people will do a donation for her not going in.
I assume that she'll be the biggest contributor to that fund.
Probably. She's not going in this year. She was going to, but the doctor's making her wear a heart monitor for a little bit.
Oh,
And that was her excuse for not jumping. I wouldn't be surprised if she still jumps in though.
What about Stevens? He going in?
Oh, he's smarter than that. He gets recruited for making the fire every year and he never knows about it until the last minute.
One year Bruce Hutchinson went in. I was shocked.
I can see doing it with a full wetsuit.
Yeah, most of the fishermen can't swim. A lot of them. My father could never swim a lick.
My father couldn't swim. He said when he was a little boy at Coleman's Cove, he'd tell his mother to take a tea kettle full of water and put it in the ocean so it would be warm enough for him.
Yeah. Ray Hamilton used to say if he fell overboard, he's gonna walk back in on bottom.
Before we get started, I have somebody from the council that has their hand up, so I'll see if they have something and then we can get started. Deb, is that you from the council with your hand up?
Yeah, can you see me? Because I can see you and Mark.
No, with the Board of Selectmen's meeting, the only people you're gonna see are the Board of Selectmen and then the town administrator.
Oh,
Everyone
perfect.
else is a guest. It's just how it's set up. Everyone else is a guest, so I can see the list of people, but unless we promote you to a panelist or allow you to talk, you're not gonna see all the people in attendance.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So I think that we should just check and make sure we can all hear each other and this is a workshop, so it's not formal. I'm going to turn it over to Mark as soon as we check in. Vika,
Here.
Mark,
Here.
Jen,
Here.
Jay,
Here,
Bo.
Here.
Okey doke. So I'm turning this over to Mark. This is a workshop, so it's informal, but if you have questions, they need to go through Mark.
Thank you, Donna. Yeah, this is a budget workshop. We're going to start with the nonprofit requests and then go to the capital improvement list after this. Any movement of funds in any direction should at least have the majority consensus of the board. Doesn't have to be a formal vote, of course, because we're not going to do formal votes, but at least 3 of us should agree to any increase or decrease in any funds. So with that, I would like to start in with the nonprofits if we could. I would just refer to your custom budget report that Vika put in your packet, page 1. We're going to go department 4,600 contributions, and we'll go right in order, starting with the Shebig Island Library. Last year, they requested $25,000, exact same request for this year. Is there anyone from the library that wants to speak, Vika, or do you have anything to say?
I don't see any hands in the audience and I don't have anything to add to this.
Okay. Any questions or comments from any specific select board member, please?
No, I think they're asking for the same thing, so I think they're doing a great job. We should just move on if no one has any questions.
Yeah, that's where I am. If everybody's okay, we will move on unless I hear or see any objection. Thank you. The next one is the Shebig Island Community Center, which is the hall. Last year, they asked for $34,500. Exact same request for 2023. Any representatives or anybody from the hall here?
Lynn has her hand up, so I'm gonna allow her to talk. Go
Yeah,
ahead, Lynn.
Can you hear me?
yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I just, a point of information, it's not the hall, it's the community center, the 3 groups as a whole. We call it the partnership. And it is the one, this stipend that we're asking for is the one that is for the entire building. It's not for individual organizations, but it's administered by this partnership, which consists of the library, the council, and the hall.
Yeah, pardon me for that, Lynn. Thank you for that
No problem.
clarification. Any questions or comments from anyone?
I'd just like to make a comment. I think it's great, the work that they've done and how they've upgraded the facility. I think they've done a great job. I go back to when we first started funding this, when they put in the new furnace in the new building. We as taxpayers in the town of Cumberland then, at that time, the agreement was that a lot of programs for kids would be able to be used. They would be able to use that building for free, and I hope that still continues. Thanks.
Yeah, and I agree, Donna. They've done some nice work to the facility outside and inside as well. So if everybody's all set, we'll move on to the next item. Next item is line 3164, and this is a contribution that we have been making, at least to the visiting nurse and hospice. Last year, we budgeted $1,250. 2023 is suggested at $1,000. Anyone with any
I have a
comment?
question about that because the letter was from Northern Light. Did they take over visiting nurses and should we change the title?
Yeah, I was a little confused with that too, Vika. Did you pick up on that?
I think it's just the description in Trio, that's all.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
So are you saying that they did take over or that's separate?
I don't believe that it is separate. I think that it's just the way that it's labeled in Trio versus the way that it is, the letter is sent.
I think that
Okay.
what happened is that used to be the name of the organization that used to come. And so, somebody better should, maybe research it for the future. I think we all understand what we're giving the money for. It's for the letter from Northern Light, but
Yeah.
because they do a great job coming here. I noticed that they had 8 or 9 people that they worked with, and it valued over $37,000. And to have people be able to get served right here on this island, it's certainly worth us contributing $1,000.
Yeah, I'm okay with this contribution. Any other questions or comments from anyone? Go ahead, Jen.
Why was it reduced to 1,000 versus the 1,250?
I
That
think
was
that's
the
right.
request that they asked for this year is 1,000.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Anyone else? Bo, go ahead.
Just noticed that Northern Light gave us all their numbers and stuff and spending and all that good stuff. Apparently not enough coffee this morning. Their budget and all that good stuff. And there's a few other requests that don't have that. For minuscule requests like the Island Commons, and I know I'm going off a little bit, but if I can just say, they're asking for $1,000. Northern Light is. The Island Commons always ask for 1,500. We've never asked, or I know we've gotten it a few times, their budget and numbers and stuff, but we haven't gotten it every time. We've accepted their 1,500 a year, and then there's a couple other ones that we don't, like Life Flight and stuff like that. And I can't remember if it was a policy we made or a thing, but I think if we have that policy, we should either revisit the policy and say under $2,000 or $3,000, you don't need to show the credentials and stuff. I don't know.
I think that we required that of the on island. I don't ever remember getting this much from Northern Light. I was glad to see it, but those usually are just a letter for, kind of a token amount, like Life Flight is $300 or whatever it is. But I do think that we have I don't know if it's a written policy, but it's been our practice to get a report from each nonprofit.
Mhm.
And it's specific.
I looked back to the paperwork that we have for last year, and we didn't have a report from the Commons. And my understanding is that the Commons contribution that we make is as a result that a couple of years ago, we stopped plowing the library and the Commons and the rec center. And because of the cost that then Commons picked up from us stopping that plowing, that's the contribution that we make, is a set $1,500 to cover their cost of plowing, which is why I wasn't, when Nancy asked me if we needed anything else, I looked back to see what we got last year, and it wasn't anything more specific. And so I didn't bother asking anymore because I know that that's what it covers for that particular cost.
That's a good point, Vika. So it's a whole different kind of thing. It's not for part of their operation. And also we owe them because we didn't pay them for 2020.
Yeah.
We didn't reimburse them. So that's the
it's
other reason it's 3,000.
Go ahead, Jay. Did you have something?
That's the point that I was going to make is this is just a reimbursement for services we used to provide.
But it's still a contribution, still money spent.
True.
Yeah,
So-
maybe we should just think about, I don't think we have a full written policy that I'm aware of, but we have a sort of an operational budget policy that we expect at least our on-island nonprofits to supply financials, but maybe that's upon request of a certain amount of money or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's all I was getting at,
Yeah,
you know.
That's a good point.
yeah. Any more questions on the visiting nurse and hospice? I assume we're fine with that $1,000.
We have a hand raised from the
Okay,
council. Go ahead, Deb.
The Northern Lights is what used to be Mercy. You probably know Mercy Hospital was purchased a few years ago. They merged with, I think it's Eastern Maine Medical Center, and they created a new branding, and it's called Northern Lights. And they do not provide the nursing service here on the island where people come to the council to get blood drawn, etc. That is done by Maine Healthcare at Home, for which the council covers that cost. I'm not sure. The Northern Lights Home Health and Hospice, as far as I know, does not provide any services on the island unless they were sending out home care for either nursing, physical therapy, OT, that kind of thing. But
Right. That's
that's
exactly it. That's exactly it, Deb. They sent us a whole packet. They have 9 people and it was worth about 30-something thousand dollars. So they did do exactly what you're saying.
right. And also Maine Healthcare at Home provides services here on the island at Medicare-based services for people, as long as with some of the for-profit home care services. Northern Lights is not the only one. They're the only one that asked for a contribution from the town, but they're not the only home health care agency that services Shabik Island.
Just go into the rec center.
Didn't you say that that the council paid for Maine Health?
The council pays for Maine Healthcare at Home, which is with the
Right.
Maine
So
Health-
we're actually contributing to that through you, probably, right?
as part, yes, you could
Yeah.
look at it that
Thank you.
way.
Thank you.
thank you, Deb. Any questions for Deb before we move to the next item? Thank you. Next item is the Island Council, line 3166. Last year was a $7,000 contribution from the town to the Shabik Island Council. Exact same amount requested this year. This basically takes the place of a lot of the general assistance that the town was never able to really deliver discreetly enough, probably, for part of the community. So even though we budget maybe $500 still in that general assistance line in our operational budget, this contribution's been going to the council for a number of years, and they gave you a nice breakdown of how they're handling it with fuel assistance, the Samaritan Fund, et cetera, et cetera. Any comments or questions from anyone or anybody from the council wants to speak on this? Speaker.
Nope, I don't have any raised hands.
It's
Okay.
a great service for the people who need it.
Yeah, it's working well. I think it's a way for the town to help people that are in need of help and keep things flowing. I'm good with it. No other comments or questions from board members before we move on? Okay, thank you. The next one is line 3167. This is the Shabik Recreation Center. Last year was a contribution of 56,500. This year, they're requesting an increase of $3,000 due to increased operational costs, I assume. That's what I read anyway. And anyone from the rec center available to speak to this today?
Yeah, Steve is in the audience. I'll allow him to talk.
Okay,
Steve, you're unmuted if you want to say something.
Good morning, everyone. Yes,
morning, Steve. Thanks for
Thank
coming
you.
on.
Thank you.
Do you have a explanation of a quick rationale of the request for the extra 3,000 for us?
Yeah, I don't know that I heard you correctly with the dollar amounts. I had last year that we received 76,500.
Yes, I'm sorry. I was only reading specifically from our budget sheet of the line 3167, which is the Shabig Recreation Center, which was 56,500. The next one is actually separated on ours, 3168 for Kids Place for 20,000, which would total 76,500.
Okay.
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 Did you prefer that we talk about both of these at the same time?
Yeah, I thought last year when we worked with Justin, there was no need from the rec center standpoint to break out the dollar amounts because we break them out on our operational budget. But again, if it's just administrative, that's fine. But
Okay, so just to clarify for the board and any public that may be listening, we are talking about a total of $76,500, which includes the rec center contribution and the Kids Place contribution from last year, and a request for 3 more thousand for a total of $79,500. Go ahead, Steve.
yes, that is correct. And then if you had questions, or I gave you our budget in last year's P&L. Happy to answer questions or.
Mark, I have a question.
Sorry, go ahead, Don.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, when I'm going through all these financial sheets, it seems like I go through one thing and then I get confused and I go to something else. So the very last page, is that is that showing the whole thing? Or is that, like, if we wanted to find out at the bottom, because when it says net revenue, it looks like Kids Place made $45,000.
You're looking at,
Totally.
you're looking at the P&L, is that correct? Yes, you are.
Yeah.
Okay,
So-
you're referring to the last year's December 31st. You're looking at the last page of the statement of activity by class or.
Exactly. So I'm trying to understand that
Yes.
last word.
Yep.
Net
Yep.
revenue. So
Yeah,
does
so
that
we-
mean that at the end of the year, we're ahead 59,254?
That is correct. That's prior to the tax return, but this is the monies that we were referring to, correct? Yeah, so we're categorizing it by Kids Place. The rec center is the general operating account is the rec center called operating, and then the pool and the teen center. And so, yes, you are right. So all the way to the right is 59,254,099, if I said it right.
So I guess my question is, why do you need another 3,000?
Well, okay, so we're required as a nonprofit to isolate or categorize all the monies that we get in for operating. So it can get a little deceiving on some of these categories. So we have some restricted funds that we have to be careful with. So if someone makes a donation to Kids Place or to anything, the pool, we get people will write donation checks, and if they have a preference where they want their funds used, those categories or those funds need to be allocated to those areas. And then we're also allocating money for large repairs, like we know we're going to need the roof done. So we're putting money in reserve, monies away in reserves to repair large items like the roof.
And where does that show up? I guess I'm kind of confused.
So, okay, so the next sheet of document that you would look at would be this year's budget. So that would be our operating budget for this year.
And which page? Well, that wasn't the last one. Wait a sec. That was the last page in the whole thing. So where's the January through December 2022? Is that for this year's budget? Okay, yeah, I get it. Okay.
Okay, so this year's budget, so again, based on our charter, we have to have an operating budget for the year. And so this would be this year's budget and how we expect the money that we expect to receive and the money that we're anticipating to go in expenditures in this budget. And so usually the budgets, we try to get the budgets, same thing with last year, we try to get them float to try to be a net zero or, and that's what our goal is. You can never anticipate every expenditure, of course. And then some of our assumptions of donations and grants, this is what we're expecting, but again, it doesn't necessarily mean that our grants or our donations are going to come through. So we have to be flexible throughout the year. So at times our financial team will have to reassess this budget if we do not receive a grant or donations as expected, or of course, unanticipated expenses also. So on this particular budget, you'll see if you go to the last page, of course, Kids Place, very small increments. Kids Place is showing a positive at 2,500. Operating account is at $841. And then the pool and the teen center at neutral. And then as far as the money, we did break out the money a little bit more on that same page, the last page of the budget. We realign the town appropriations money. That's on page 3 of the budget. So it does show the original 20,000 at Kids Place, 57,500 for operating and $10,000 at the pool.
I think it's supposed to be 56.5 because
Yeah,
last
yeah.
year it was not
Yeah.
appropriate for 57, so that number is
Right.
wrong.
Apologize. Yeah, that looks wrong. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, that's correct. Donna, did Steve answer your question?
I'm not sure if I answered your question, Don.
I guess, last year you had a big,
Yeah,
maybe a
I can-
big year of grants and that kind of stuff, but this year you
I can-
still ahead. I guess that
Yeah,
was my question.
I can explain something from last year that's unusual. The federal government had some loans that we were able to acquire. On that last page, Donna, of the P&L from last year, a couple lines about you'll see a forgiveness of debt income.
Yeah.
On that
Okay,
line.
so it's 28,000.
Yeah, that's an unusual amount. That amount doesn't normally come in. That's a PPP loan forgiveness. So a good chunk of that 59,000 that you're seeing is because of that 28,000 loan. We won't see that this year.
Sure, but
we
you
were-
still have 30,000.
Yep, we were fortunate to get that.
Get a bunch of grant, no, I mean, you still have 30,000 even if you subtract that.
Yeah,
So-
and then the other large amount will come in on page 1 of that. Under the Kids Place donations, there was a rally this year to try to support Kids Place. And so we were very fortunate to get about 27,000. That's the first line actually of that category. So we had two large donations, actually, the 27,000 for Kids Place, and then we also received some grant monies of 20,000.
Okay,
That's on page 1 of
okay,
that.
thank you.
You all set, Donna?
Yeah, that helps to explain.
Okay, anyone else? Questions for Steve? Go right ahead, Jen, and then Bo.
Steve, can you just explain briefly, I mean, we don't have that in front of us, but maybe over the last 5 years, how has the rec center fared as far as numbers? Is the being up 59,000 unusual? Is that about where you've been for the last few years? Can you kind of give a brief synopsis of that?
Yeah, there's been 2 years. Last year was surprisingly last year was surprisingly high. So that's abnormally high. for us to be that far ahead in the game. That's a good thing, obviously. So that's really good. But I would say about half that. And then there's been times where we've had some problems where lots of the money was going to Kids Place too. I think we've really balanced that out now with our private donations. So that's an example there of really exceeding. Another example last year was the pool. We had a rally. Again, it's some of the passions of people. We had a really large rally for the pool last year. So because the pool was closed the previous year, we've got a lot of private funding to support the pool. We say to support the pool, but again, a lot of this funding goes right to students. So we had lifeguards that we trained. So we spent about $14,000 on scholarships for the 8 lifeguards that we had last year. But in regards to the past, I can't speak to the 5 years, but at least in the past 3 years, we have fared pretty well with donations, Jen, as far as our tax returns are concerned. So 2019 was a little sketchy, but it's improved since then. And I believe our accounting bookkeeping has improved also. Bo?
All set, Jen? Bo and then Jay.
Just a quick question. I was wondering, do you hire out to do your grant writing?
We don't hire out to do the grant writing. That's been a major issue that's been brought up with Kids Place. We're looking for a grant now to have someone help us with the sustainability of Kids Place. So we're looking for some professional assistance in regards to Kids Place, and as far as how we can fund it properly and staff it properly. So we're looking for a grant for that now. As far as, we're looking for someone to help us with the grant writing process for KP.
Because the reason I'm asking is on, I think it's your page 1 of your new budget. Yeah. You got grant expenses. And then you got like $30,000 just for grant expenses. Unless I'm reading it wrong.
Yeah, I'm going there now.
That's why it made me question if you're hiring somebody to write grants.
Oh, no, that would be grants that's grant monies that we received, Bo. So when we receive a grant, like a recompense grant as an example. So one of the examples there is we're proposing a grant for 20, make sure I'm looking at the right one, right? Yeah, oh, I'm looking at the wrong one, sorry. Even myself, I'm looking at the wrong one. 30, so which number were you looking at on that first page, Bo, as an example?
Write down this, right below the gross profit, say it's expenditures. You have advertising, bank charge, about 3/4 of the way down the page.
Yeah. So those grant expenditures there on that page there, that's money in and money out. So if we get a grant, that grant expenditure is directly related to the incoming money of that grant. So when you see grant expense 30,000, that is a direct amount. We would have received a grant for 30,000 in order to have that grant expense. That's an in and out. So.
All right, I read it wrong.
Yep.
Sorry.
You all set, Bo?
Yes.
Go ahead, Jay.
Hi, Steve.
Morning.
Just a couple of points. One is, just so everybody remembers, we also pay the center $8,000 for the gym rental. So the town's contribution to the total is more in the neighborhood of 84,500.
Yes. And that's listed on page 3 of the,
No, it's there. I'm just
Yeah.
so everybody gets a picture of the total of what we're spending. The second question I had was, what's the size of the endowment? I realize that some of it may be restricted, but What's the size of the endowment?
Yep, hang on one sec for me. Sorry.
Yeah, that was gonna be one of my questions too, Jay. Thanks for.
Yeah, I meant to open up that screen and I didn't. Let me open it real quick here. There's two monies that I was going to report to you that I didn't report on. So let me bring up that screen. I can tell you both those numbers I want to tell you about. I'm just waiting for the screen to load. I'm sorry, I should have had it already opened.
And Steve, kind of piggybacking on Jay's question, we assume that these have restrictions of how much you can use of them annually?
Yeah, we have rules. I believe we can only pull, we pull about 11% from a profitable year out of the
Okay,
endowment fund.
yeah.
Wow.
But we put that right back. We put $27,000 a year away for capital expenditures. Should be listed on that last page of my budget for this year. You'll see a capital budget transfer of $27,000. So that's part of our budget. So we do kind of plan ahead or squirrel away monies. So we take $27,000 and put that into our capital budget for capital repairs. Jay, it's over 200,000, but I'm waiting for the screen to load. I want to give you an exact amount. I'll give you the two amounts, what's in our capital funds. It's coming up now. And I'll give you our endowment amounts. In our capital account currently has $125,000 in our capital account.
Okay.
And our account for $361,000 is our current value for our
The endowment.
so endowment. Yeah.
Okay. Sort of following up on that. Did I understand you to say that you can take as much as 11% out of your endowment every year?
I believe we transfer about maybe I said 11%, 11,000. I'm sorry, big difference. Maybe that isn't a big difference. Hang on.
Yeah, I thought I remembered a number of 11 or 12,000 in the past, but
Yeah.
Yeah, 10% would
that's what
be
we-
36,000.
Yeah, that's what we normally take. I'm sorry, Jay. It's more like 11,000, not percentage. And then
So
typically 11 gets
3% plus is a round number.
Yeah, you're right. And that's typically about like half. I kind of, in my mind, I reserve kind of like that of the 27,000 that we put back in the capital budget. I kind of, in my mind, and it doesn't exactly work out that way, but that's how I kind of think of it. That 11 kind of is moved over for our capital account.
So every year you budget $20,000+ and plus another 3% out of the endowment to go into your capital funds?
Yes, yep.
Okay, so, all right. Thank you.
And we have about 125, I said, in that capital account.
Right, got it.
Should help us, obviously, with our roof.
All set, Jay?
Yeah, for the time being
Okay.
anyway, thank you.
Very, very quickly, I won't drag this on, Steve, but it sounds like that you guys are certainly planning for some capital repairs. So do you have a small committee that's going to make recommendations of a prioritized list for that facility?
Yeah, we do have, we actually have a list made out now.
Okay,
Now we just need to get, what we don't have is we don't have current, the current value of the building materials, so it needs to be quoted.
yeah. I, for one, would be very interested if you decide to do your roof and you're going out for bids and you're going after asphalt roofing or metal roofing, I would be interested in how you make out with that, with the way this market's going.
Yes.
Then very quickly, how are you guys making out for staffing? Are you struggling like everyone is?
Yeah, there's always a constant with our kids' place. Our board has been spending a lot of time on staffing. That's always an issue. And the rec center, though, as far as the rec center itself is fine. Our summer staff has been lined up. So we're okay for the summer. We have
Yeah.
additional help coming in the summer for kids' place also.
Okay. And not to make anyone feel bad, but when we started getting our budget lists early, when Justin was still here before Vika became our new town administrator, I thought we got a request list that showed you guys were going to be requesting the same amount as last year. Did this change quite recently? Just because you guys met and decided you needed to ask for $3,000 more?
Yeah, I don't remember speaking to Justin about the dollar amount for this year. So I apologize if I was unaware that he put in the same amount. I wasn't aware of that. We built our budget this year, and that's where the $3,000 kind of came out when we were rebuilding our budget this year. That's kind of where some of our expenses have gone up, as far as some of our things like the heating fuel and some of the different things that have gone up. And so that's kind of where the additional money was requested.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Okay, let's,
I had one quick question.
yeah, and then we're gonna get a consensus.
Okay, so I have a question about kids' plays. First of all,
Yes.
my first question is, why are they not open 5 days a week?
It started when our past director, Corey, when she left, and then when we hired our new director, Emily, we were in the thick of COVID at the time. And so right now we had two basically full-time people at Kids Place right now. They do 4 10-hour days right now. And then the building needs to be cleaned. It's cleaned daily. But the problem is with the two staff that we have, they're doing 4 10-hour days. And then we have staff meetings on Friday at the moment. In a new plan, we're obviously hiring. We've been planning on hiring regardless, but in a new plan, we would try to stagger some of the staff to allow for a 5-day schedule. One thing I can say, we always look for negatives and positive in everything that we do. Right now in the state of Maine, this year alone, I should say, 160 childcare centers have closed in the state of Maine. It is very, very difficult to maintain your staff and stay in your state. We're licensed, so we have all our license requirements. It's very difficult for childcare centers to remain open in the state of Maine. So one plus side is we are open, and we are open 4 days a week, and we're not closed. And so that is a goal, though. We recently sent out notices to parents that our our board currently is looking at a method to try to have a full week, Monday through Friday availability. And we would have had in the past is very difficult because a volunteer person, even someone that's really kind, that says, you know, I want to volunteer, I don't want to get paid. That person is held to the same requirements as a full timer. So they need to go through the background checks and have CPR training and basically everything, all the steps. So even that, it's even difficult to get someone to go through that commitment level to be CPR trained and go through the background checks. So it's been challenging. There's no question about it.
Thank you. I just want to make one more just observation. Your capital and endowment is about half of what the library is, approximately. So just to put that in perspective, I think we're lucky that all of these nonprofits are saving money for a catastrophe. So I just wanted to put that in perspective because we didn't ask the other people about it, but I think it's prudent that they have endowments and that, you know, we should celebrate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Steve, do you guys offer benefit packages to your employees up there?
We do not.
Okay, thank you for that. It's time for a consensus of the board. Where are we at with this request of $3,000 more for the rec center than last year for a total of $79,500, which includes the rec center and the kids' place contribution plus $3,000 more. Where are we at on this? Bo?
I'm good with it.
Jen?
I would hold it at what it was previously.
Okay. Jay?
I would, I'm in Jen's camp. I would keep it the same amount. I mean, we give them an awful lot of money every year.
All right. Donna?
I would support the increase, and the reason being is if we had to run a rec center, a rec department ourselves, and I always think back to the fact that in that organization, there's a reversion clause that goes back to that building. If they go under, we have that building. It goes back to the town of Shebig. It actually, they don't own the land under it, and that was part of the original agreement. And so I think that anything this community can do to support it, we're a lot better off. It would cost us much more if we had to run a recreation department ourselves.
Yeah, I was not going to support this, but I've changed my mind. I'm going to support the request for the extra 3,000. I appreciate the appearance by you, Steve, at this meeting and the explanations, and I think it's a difficult operation down there. I think the kids' place is a difficult place to keep staffed. I think it's hard with the amount of kids that come and go in places like that. So, and I know that a lot of people use the rec center. So I guess as of right now, we've got a consensus of 3 of us that are going to approve this request of 3,000. Vika, do you have any comment, or does anyone in the audience have anything to say about this, please?
I do not, and it looks like Steve has his hand raised. Steve, go ahead.
I just want to say thank you for that. One of the positive things I can say, which is really, you know, we always want to leave on a positive note, our after-school program, I should have said that right from the beginning. This year, the after-school program has just been tremendous. The partnership with the school, both with Kids Place and the rec center in the school, the partnership with the school has just been wonderful. We operate a 4-day-a-week after-school program for our town. The rec center does 2 days with the staff people that we pay to do the after-school program, and the school pays for 2 days with their staff people. And it's just been a really nice collaborative after-school program from Monday through Thursday for the kids to go. It's just a nice cooperative effort between the rec and the school. And so I think that's just a thing that everyone should really realize and talk about. That's new this year, a full bringing that back and having full after school program for the kids. So it's just great to see the kids at the rec center. So.
All right, Steve, thanks very much for your work and your financial report and your explanations today.
Thanks. Have a great afternoon and come get some soup and chili if you can.
Thank you. Okay, guys. Okay, if I move on to the last item on this list, at least, is 3169. It's a request from the Island Commons, just like Vika explained so well. Annually, the town contributes $1,500 to the Shebig Island Commons Resource Center for plowing services. Last year, we failed to make that payment, so that they're asking us to replace that payment. So basically, they're asking for $3,000. Any questions or comments on this one? Go ahead, Jen.
I just spoke briefly with Nancy and with Amy, and you know, you look at the overall picture of all these different line items and different organizations, and you know, just like how important it is for us to support and have a daycare on the island for kids, I think it's so equally important that the Commons is here and that we support them. And I understand the part about the plowing, you know, taken away probably because of liability and all that. But if I could say, you know, one thing that I don't think would do a lot as far as taking away from a budget or you know, any other thing, they have a lot of trouble with the ice. I think everybody has trouble with the ice. And if at all possible, at any time, if you know, our town crew could just go through their parking lot and sand, you know, they have the most use of the rescue coming in and out of there. And you know, they have people that do that, but I just would do a shout out for that. If there's any way that our town crew could just, in all that they do, just whip through that parking lot and throw some sand down, you know, when it's really icy and in a storm, I think that would really help things out. So
I agree with you, Jen. The problem is we used to do that and we were told by the town attorney that the state does not allow us to do that kind of work. And that's really unfortunate. I mean, all the sand is free, but we were doing the rec center, the library, and the commons, just, you know, just as a regular, just plowing, but also sanding. And what happened, what brought it to a head was there was damage done at the library. And once that came up, that's when we found out that we weren't supposed to be doing it. And so it's a liability issue for the town's part. And I'm with you. I wish we lived in a world where we could just go in and do that, because I think we should be doing all the public buildings around here and all the nonprofits. But
maybe you could double check with our town attorney to see if we decided as a town to request a legal waiver from the Shebig Commons, if that would cover the liability concerns.
I think that's a great idea.
I can email her.
I hope it's positive.
Because if there's a way to back that truck in there and spread some sand and take off, I don't see that as big a liability as putting a plow down and pushing around. That's what happened at the Island Hall. So I like Donna said, we live in a world of risk and legal liability, and I understand all of that. But if there is a way to have something signed by Amy and that Shebig Commons that covers us, kinda, I would be all right with it.
There's also, I think, there's also an issue about using town property on private town vehicles on private property. I think that came up at the same time too, so you could ask that question too, Vicar, if
Yeah.
there's a way we can get around that.
I have seen our machines sanding in the kids' place property, and I'm not sure we own that.
We do. We actually, oh, no, we don't. We own the rec center land, but we don't own the kids'
Yeah.
place land.
So maybe if you can look into, thank you for bringing that up, Jen. I agree with that statement. As far as the $3,000, is everybody okay with this? Go ahead, Jen.
I'll just put out one more plug. This is the first year that I'm on the board and looking at all the numbers really intensely and closely. And I would be one of those people that would be in favor for equaling out more about how money is distributed for all these nonprofits and services that we get. That's just my plug for the day.
Okay, thank you very much. So I assume you're okay for at least today with the 3,000.
Mark, can I just give Jen a little bit of background about how we got in so
Yeah,
deep?
quickly, Dawn. I want to move this meeting
I
along.
know. I just want to.
We have somebody in the audience too that has their hand up.
We got into it because they were providing services that we wouldn't have provided ourselves. And we got into it, it carried over from Cumberland. For example, they didn't give us a library. So the deal was if we built our own library, they would maintain it and they would help in the operational costs. So that's how we got into it so deep with like the rec center and the library.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's helpful, but that's the history behind it.
Thank you, Donna. But someone in the audience, please, Vika.
Yep, Susan Stranahan. Go ahead, Susan.
I just want to thank you, Jen. One point that I'd like to raise is that it's the town rescue squad that runs the risk of injury on a rescue at the commons if they do have to go in. And I'm not sure if that would help an issue on the liability. But the last thing we would want is one of the rescue volunteers to be injured on the ice at the commons. And we appreciate it. It would be terrific if we could get a load of sand in there when it's really bad. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Susan. Anybody else before we move along? Okay, I think we're good. Very quickly, Vika, these other requests, I assume that we will be taking up at a regular business meeting like Life Flight and those other, is that accurate?
Usually we did them with the nonprofits.
Yeah, because these are contributions that are being asked for with the budget season, so it wouldn't go on your budget.
Okay,
It would
let's
be
do them
discussed
quick.
now.
Let's do them quickly, please, because I want to get to capital. Could you
I
read
will say
these?
that, the ones that are added in here, so Through the Doors, Maine Public Radio, American Red Cross, and Life Flight. Life Flight, you've made a one-time donation in the past, but you don't typically make donations to these particular organizations.
Okay, so Through the Doors is asking for $100, correct?
I would say no to that one.
Okay. Anybody
Not that I
else?
don't think it's a good purpose, but it's not direct.
What about Life Flight? What are they asking for? I'm sorry.
341. I'd
Yeah.
go along with that. You never know when you might need it.
I'm okay with donating to Life Flight. Does anybody else want to chime in on that? We need one more.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
What else?
$341 is what you want to do?
Yes, please. We can take comments from anyone in the public afterwards. And what's the other one? Did we already do
Maine
this?
Public Radio,
No.
How much is that one? Go ahead, Jay.
$100.
Go ahead, Jay.
Can I ask that the other three, we just file somewhere in a circular file and move ahead with Life Flight and move on?
No, because we would be not giving the money to Northern Lights, who sends people down here to help shut-ins. So I couldn't go along with that.
But I thought you already just
Yeah,
agreed
We
on.
did that
Northern Light.
already. That was a
Northern Light-
visiting nurse in hospice.
That's
Okay.
why
Yeah.
I asked my question. Did we do that already?
Yes,
I have it checked off that you discussed it
Okay.
and agreed on it. So the only
All right.
one you need to discuss is whether you want to do $100 contribution to make Maine Public Television or a contribution to American Red Cross.
I would say Maine Public Television and not the other two.
How about everyone else? Jen,
I don't agree with any of them. They're all great organizations, of course, but this isn't the year for us to be doling out, money. It's too tight of a budget.
okay, Jay,
people who want to contribute personally to these other three, fine, but not for the town. Life Flight, I think probably we should be giving money to.
okay, Bo,
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same, just life flight.
yeah, I'm good with where I am too.
Yeah, I'm fine with just Life Flight.
Okay, does that cover it, Vika?
That's all of them.
Any questions from anyone in the public before we move on that you can see?
No, we're down to three people.
Okay,
Hey, Mark, I just gotta run to the restroom.
go right ahead. We'll
Thank you.
spend money while you're gone. Big money. Where the rubber hits the roads, the capital.
While he does that, I'm grabbing another cup of coffee.
There you go.
No pun intended, right? When the rubber hits the road.
We can only hope we can get road work done. We've got one contract signed with them.
Well, but I think we need to buy a new plow truck.
It's working again this morning.
It is? What happened?
Chuck, I ran into him this morning and Chuck said that he was on and off the phone with the guy from the dealership and they had him go through and do a couple things and push a couple things and, try to do something with the computer. And so it appears as though there might have been some kind of computer glitch and he was out plowing and sanding this morning when I saw him. So far it's working, but
Yeah, I
So
saw
are they
him.
available 24/7? So if he has to call them and, if it lets go in the middle of the night?
they've been really available so far, and that's kind of, as far as I can comment on that. I mean, so
Yeah.
far, every time he's contacted them, he's been contacted with a specific individual from the dealership, so.
Yeah, I saw him back out in it. I didn't text him or anything because I didn't want to bother him. So I figured he must have got on the phone with
Yeah.
somebody and somebody told him to push a button. It's probably
It's
some
working this
computer.
morning, so fingers crossed. But
probably
I think
some-
that right now, with the way it stands, as long as it's gonna keep working, we're not gonna, I mean, they don't know, I don't know if it's worth for it to be taken off the island again until, something else happens, but
Yeah. All
I'm
right,
still
folks.
fighting on them to reimburse us for the barging.
We are at our capital improvement budget, Department 9,000. I'm open for how you want to approach this list today, if anybody has any suggestions. Otherwise, I'm just going to ask each selectman if they have specific items that they would like to visit, revisit, whether they like the list the way it is, whether they think we should be subtracting money from any current proposed 2023 initial line would be the list, the line that you would be choosing from. Right now, we are choosing to put $50,000 into 9025, which is fire department reserve, 10,000 into building facilities, 10,000 into Newtown office, which is 9031, 17,500 into solar array purchase, which is 9033, 5,000 into vehicle reserve, which is 9035, $20,100 into reevaluation reserve, 9045. 175,000 into 9050, which is paving. $35,000 into line item 9055, which is public works equipment. And 7,500 still in there for harbor master vessel. I thought we were going to take that number out, which is 9060. And that's all that I had on my list
You had-
so far, but I could be incorrect.
10,000 for easement and drainage with the first meeting you
that's-
guys agreed to
That's
do.
correct. Thank you.
Yeah.
How would
Mike,
you like,
I would
How would
like to
you-
just start at the top and just go down through and say yes or no, just because I think if we start going all over the place, it's gonna get confusing.
okay, so.
Thank you.
So we're going to go with the list that was in your packet. Is that correct? Page 1, which is custom budget report expense 90, Department 9,000 capital improvement. We're not going to go
Yes.
with, yeah. And then we will refer to the Machias Savings Bank Reserve Account list as needed. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. Dredging, well, obviously, we're waiting for the dredging to happen up there, and we don't need to put any more funding in right now. Is that accurate?
I think that we have to decide during this budget session. We know how much it's gonna cost,
Yep.
and we know that this number's wrong. There's not 47,000 in there, there's 18,697.
Yeah, and I'm sorry for not making that correction.
Oh, that's okay. And I think we have to decide, are we going to take some out of this budget? Are we going to put some for the capital budget, or, and we're gonna bond some, or we're gonna borrow it from the bank? I think that's the biggest discussion we have today.
And Donna, will that amount be $250,000?
It's about 228,000 total.
Thank
It's
you.
a little bit more.
Oh, it is?
Looks like it's, so the paperwork that I have in front of me, it's 232.
Oh, it went up then.
232,000.
After the completion of construction, your final 10% is now estimated at $232,925,000.
All right.
Thank-
And so we have
Thank you,
18.
Vika. Go ahead, Bo.
I think we need to use the recommendation that we got from our previous town administrator and go with a bank loan once we have a final tally on how much we're going to owe these people. They say 232 now, but you know, they said 210 last time. So it's been going up and down and everywhere. So I think a bank loan to loan off, and like Justin said, it could be paid off at any time after that. So
Jay, go ahead.
Didn't the Army Corps or somebody have a program where you could pay this off over 5 years?
It was over 30 and they've never had anybody do it.
Oh, third.
When Justin investigated, and that's why he came back with the idea of having us do that. And because it's very they've come up with some convoluted thing, and I'm not sure exactly, I can't remember when he described it to us, but that's when he gave us the advice about just going to Machias Savings Bank and taking out a loan. I mean, we could pay part of it down. We could take, 25 out of here, or we could just borrow the whole thing from the bank.
Yeah, and the advantage, obviously, of going with Machias or any other lending entity rather than certainly a bond bank would be that you can pay it down early. Is that accurate?
Right. And so if we put in, say, 50,000 every year or 25,000, depending on how long we wanted to pay it off in the capital budget, whatever the payments would be plus paying on the capital, we could save it up and pay it off.
Yeah.
And pay it off over 5 years by, 50,000 a year or something like that.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
you do 232 divided by 5 years, it's 46,400, but that's without interest. So I think 50,000 over 5 years, you would be close with interest, depending on what that is.
Okay, so that, go ahead, Jay.
I'm gonna make a suggestion, that what we do is we budget, 32,000 this year in that department because we got 18 there. And that will be the first step in a $50,000 a year pay down of whatever loan we might take out.
Yeah, that
I
sounds
think
like,
that makes sense.
that sounds like that makes sense to me. And then, so basically, we would have that for a down payment, and then that balance would be financed through a loan entity, right?
Yeah,
Right. And we have to, what he told me the last time I talked to him, Mark Habel, about this. He said that, that there was paperwork that would have to be done, because I said we would have to have a special town meeting if we had to pay the day that they finished the work. And he
Yeah.
said it would definitely be after July 1st by the time we get the final bill.
Yep. Does anybody disagree with that from the Board of Selectmen?
Nope.
Okay. Anybody from the public? Sorry to keep bothering you, Vika, but,
No, there's only one person left. We've lost everyone.
okay. No one's got a question. So right now, we're putting in $32,000 in line item 9010. There's a balance of 18,000 and change, which obviously makes the $50,000 available if passed by town meeting for down payment on the balance due. Next line item is 9025, Fire Department Reserve. I think the proposed 2023 is $50,000, and the goal here is to be able to possibly purchase our last maybe piece of firefighting equipment for 2026. Does anybody have anything to say about this?
I just like to say, I think you're dreaming if you think it's our last piece of fire equipment.
Well, I may have misspoken. I was trying to be, I was trying to be nice with my comments. I just remember that that's the tank truck, and that's
Yeah.
the last old piece in there. That's what I meant.
Can I comment on that, please?
Sure.
So I asked Ralph to give me a list of what he thinks would potentially be replaced and in what years. The sheet that he gave me, he said the 1985 International should have been replaced in 2015, which that didn't help, and him giving me a date when it should be replaced. And he said that the estimate cost is going to be about $325,000. So if you're setting aside $50,000, now over the next couple of years, it's coming short of that amount. So,
Okay.
but then the good news is the next truck he doesn't anticipate being replaced, hopefully, is until 2032.
And has he shown you any backup documentation for that number?
No.
Okay. And I'm not doubting that something could cost more than we think it should cost. That's not my point. I would rather have a little bit more detail to that sort of a statement myself. I'm good with this $50,000 number is my point right now. Anybody else? We good? Nothing from the public? Okay, thank you. Next one is 9030 building facilities, current balance 15,671. I may be getting these balances wrong, so excuse me. I may not be looking in the right place, but we're not proposing anything for 2023. Any comments on this line?
Could you give me the definition? I couldn't remember what that was.
Yeah, hold on. I have it right here. And I should scan this in and send this to you guys. So the Shebig Island capital plan for building, where is it? School, harbor, rescue, dredging, boats, facilities, 1930, is that the one? Yep.
Yeah. the
So
1930.
1930, the definition for that is capital repairs and modifications to the administration and public safety structures on North Road. So that would cover this office, and the transfer station would be my, yes.
So my question is that where like the upgrade, where would the upgrade to the electrical system come from?
My recommendation would be that this is where you would put that money.
Is there enough money in there to do whatever needs to be done to upgrade the electrical?
The current balance is a little over
It's
$15,000.
Right.
So if
Yeah,
we're
I just
looking
didn't
at-
know if anybody had an estimate for that. What that, getting a new panel and all that stuff, whatever.
Jay, I will get to you, Bo,
okay.
quickly. We haven't heard a number yet, have we?
I got a rough number.
Okay.
I'm still waiting to hear back from Consolidated, and I talked to Ken. And got a rough number of 6,500, and I thought that was kind of low, and he wasn't sure on certain numbers, so I gave him a ballpark about 65 to 10, not knowing exactly where we were going and stuff, so give us some cushion. If the town does the digging, eliminate some costs there, and then so I'm with everything, it's close to about 15. So I'm guessing 15 is a good number, but like I said, I don't have all the numbers yet.
Yeah, thank you. Jay, go ahead.
If my memory serves, one of the discussions that we had was that we were going to use this 15,000 plus put another 15 or 10 or whatever it was going to take to get the rust removal and paint work done on the transfer station.
The transfer station painting money was put in the regular budget. So you added $20,000.
Right,
Or-
but the estimate was somewhat higher than that, if memory serves.
I'm sorry, Vika, did we add that to the operational budget of solid waste?
Yeah, so what we did is you added $20,000 for the building maintenance for next year's budget.
Yeah, I had forgotten that, Jay, but she's correct.
Right, but I guess my question wasn't the estimate for getting that work done somewhat higher than that?
I think you're right, Jay.
Years ago, and I'm gonna say 4 or 5 years ago now, we got an estimate for around 18 or 19. That's all that I remember.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought we're going to take some of the money out of this account. I remember it the way Jay does. That's why I marked this, because I almost think we need to put some more money in here, especially if we're going to do the electrical and the painting, just to make sure we have enough.
You
The
have a
estimates
recommend-
that I have in front of me for painting are from 2019, and they are coming in a little under $14,000.
Oh,
So that was in 2019, so.
So it isn't as much as I thought.
But that was also a couple years ago, so it probably will be
Right.
$10,000 more this year.
So does anybody have a recommendation on whether we leave this account where it is at 0 or whether we put money into it? Go ahead, Jen.
I think we put money into it. I would recommend $10,000.
Yeah, that's what I was going to recommend
Yeah.
that too. I agree with Jen.
That's my recommendation too. I think we've got 3. You guys can be opposed if you'd like. Bo, did you have something?
Yes, I just wanted to add, we did have a facility meeting last week,
Yeah,
and David Bruner brought up a good thing about if we really need to add the 200, an extra 200 amps to the building currently. I did do some research with Ken, and Ken's like, yeah, we're kind of maxed out on our service as it is right now. And if we do attempt to add on to that building, that service wouldn't be adequate. So we kind of informed Dave, and Dave gave us some suggestions about looking back to our CMP on how much we use and stuff like that. So we're still trying to get some research on if it's a smart thing to do now, or we can hold off. So just to keep you guys informed.
Yeah,
That's for the firehouse building,
Firehouse, public, the town
not the
office.
Public Works.
Public
Not public
safety,
works,
it's this whole building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry if I misspoke.
well, so far we've had Island Electric and Ken Pelton tell us that the service is maxed out. You know, we haven't had Sebago Electric or anybody else go in. I personally think it's probably time to budget for this and start getting ready to install the 400 amp server. So the 10,000 is good with me. Any more discussion on this? Anyone from the public? No? Okay, so we're gonna put 10,000 into building facilities 9030. Next one is 9031, new town office. Current balance $45,400. Proposed is $10,000 for 2023. Comments or questions, please? Go ahead, Bo.
I just wanted to hear the definition on that one. I couldn't remember what it
It's
says,
a new town office. That's the definition.
but that's all it
Under
says.
capital improvement, that's the definition.
And this was by the roof shingles.
I don't think it would even buy the roof shingles. I mean, the thing is, I think what we're doing is we're getting enough money together so when we get ready to do it, we can get a final plan and we can get started, and then we'll figure out how to finance it. I think that's really what this is.
Yeah, well, I think the money that we're setting aside now is, it's with the balance that's there. I think with the facilities committee, where we are now is we're going to be having a meeting with the different architects. And so
Right.
I think this money in there would barely cover the work that architect would be doing to, design and determine what needs to be done to this whole entire building.
Yeah, I think you're right. And that's why I think we should keep funding it.
You'll need,
So that's why I was asking.
yeah, you'll
Just,
need design and engineering. Are we good with this 10,000, or does anybody have any other thoughts?
Does the committee have a request for more than that, or have they not talked about it?
No, we haven't really talked about it yet. But my question is if it just says new town office, it does hiring an architect fall under that?
Yeah, that's part of it.
Part of the consensus, or do we have to, go to town meeting and clarify that line?
It
No, I
says a
think maybe-
reserve fund to build a new town office. So the way I take it is the work that goes into. I can
Yeah.
double check with Natalie.
And
Yeah.
no, and I think that even if you were going to build it across the road or whatever, and have a brand new structure or whatever you do, any of the money that goes in that contributes to the ultimate goal of getting some kind of a new town office, whether it's a renovation or whatever, I think that that is covered.
Yeah, I
You
did too.
can't build something if you don't have a plan.
Are we good with the 10,000, or do we want to cut it or
Yes.
put more in? Are we good?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next one is 9032, land acquisition and development. Current balance is a whopping $2,800, nothing proposed. Jay, I think you've worked on this. Are we gonna leave this as is, in your opinion?
I would just leave it where it is, yeah.
Okay, anybody else with a comment or a question? Going once? Thank you. Next one is 9033. This is the solar array purchase. Current balance, $45,108. We need to put away $17,500 a year to consider buying this for $80,000 or whatever it is, something in that ballpark. So right now we've got 17,500 proposed. Questions, comments?
Good.
We don't have a choice.
Everybody good? Thank you. Next one is 9034. This is the broadband reserve, current balance $50,000, nothing proposed for 2023. Comments, questions?
Yeah, I have a question because when I add these up, there's 10, 40, and 40. How does it come up to only 50? We haven't spent that much money. We haven't spent $40,000. So I'm just wondering if all the money has been transferred into this.
From the work that Marjorie and I have done, that it is the accurate number in it. I can
Well,
look
that-
in to see what it was spent on, but
Well, maybe year to date. Oh, maybe the year to
Year to
date,
date.
40,000.
Yeah, year to date.
Okay, that's why I'm looking at that number.
Yeah. All right, we're good with this one, guys?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Bo.
I just wondering if we had heard from the broadband committee if they put in a request.
No, that they didn't because they think they've got enough to, leverage it. Just as an update, the contract is with the town attorney right now. And as soon as it comes back from the town attorney, it will go to the board and the board can make comments and then we can send it if there are issues. But it's pretty long. There's two parts to it and it's, so it's taken longer than.
very dry.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jay.
Donna, if I remember right, there was a request by two of us that we see that contract before it go to the attorney. So I'm very disappointed to hear that they've ignored us again.
Well, I don't know. Vika and I must have forgotten because we don't blame them, blame us. It just seemed like it was so, like Vika says, so dry that we thought that the least we could do is have her go through it first before we look at it. And she could at least tell us if something was legal or not, so that when we looked at it, we would have already at least had her opinion and then we can send it back.
I had looked at my notes and I didn't have any request or motion to have it go to the selectmen first. And so when I received it, I sent it to Natalie and she sent one of them back to me. I have a meeting with her on Monday where she's just gone through and she's corrected a lot of their language just to make sure that it's proper and appropriately done. And so after I meet with her on Monday, I plan to forward it on to the rest of the selectmen at the next, for the next meeting.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Sorry about that, Jay. Financially, I know I have spoken to them multiple times. I've been on 2 or 3 of their Zoom meetings. They don't seem to need any money. They're leaving this account alone for now, and they're not requesting anything else. Any other questions financially about this line? Okay, thank you. Next one is 9035, which is the vehicle reserve. Current balance is $3,200. $5,000 is proposed in the 2023 initial line. And when I talked to Justin before he left this town administrator's position, his thinking in recommending this was possibly at some point looking into the electric vehicle possibility for the town usage.
Don't they have a deal that towns can get them for very little, those electric vehicles?
Yeah, I think so. I'm just telling you what he told me. I'm not telling you I necessarily agree with the $5,000 or not. That's the explanation I got from him.
I have a question. If we had an electric vehicle, would we need even more power at the town office to plug it in?
400 amps.
Oh, okay. So 400 amps would be enough?
I would think so.
We wouldn't be able to plug it in with currently what we have.
Right, but what I mean is we would be, my point was, do we need to upgrade it more than 400 amps? But you're all saying 400 amps is enough if we ever had an electric vehicle?
According to how many trips Vika makes to the Stone Wharf to look at the repair needs down there. Kidding. Um, I
Or if
think
they
if
start.
we- I think if we upgrade any facility, Stone Wharf or our public safety town office building, we should probably make preparations, if nothing else, for electric usage to increase.
Yeah, charging station somehow,
Yeah.
or plug in, whatever it is.
So what do we think about the 5,000? Are we gonna leave it in there? Yank it out?
Yes.
Leave
Which,
it.
Jen, go ahead.
I would take it out at this time. Is the current vehicle fine?
The current vehicle is, it's fine. It works right now. I've been driving it this winter just because when I first started working and I didn't use it for a couple of weeks, it really wasn't starting. And so with this cold weather, I've been driving it to and from work. Something's wrong with the muffler. It's got the engine light on. It hasn't been maintenance. Justin never sent it over to get it maintenance while he was here. I know Marjorie used to. I'm honestly scared to have it be sent over to be maintenance because I don't know whether it's going to be able to pass inspection or not. But I do hope that when winter clears out and it's springtime, asking to see if the public works guys can go through it and clean it up and try to see if there's anything they can do to it. But it's, it's an island vehicle.
Yeah. Vika, I have kind of a tricky question. In our opinion, in your opinion, does any and every vehicle that we operate with this town need to pass vehicle inspection, state law?
If they have municipal plates, they should be passing inspection.
Okay.
Which is why I think that over the last couple of years, that's really kind of has moved away with the town passenger vehicles, because I'm pretty certain that right now, if we were to take them over, they wouldn't pass inspection.
Yeah.
But because it's a municipal vehicle, they should be passing inspection, which is why I said I'm a little nervous to send the 4Runner over, because I think that we will end up with a hefty bill that
Yeah.
is it necessary? That's
Yeah.
that's a hard question because it works, but if you get all the all the issues fixed with it, it might cost a huge chunk of cash.
Just a second, Donna. So here's where I am. I'm kind of with Jen. Without a plan, I think I'd yank the 5,000 back out of there without a specific recommendation is what I mean. And as far as the vehicles that we're using, if we can get them maintained on the island and feel that they're reasonably safe in the opinion of someone with mechanical experience, that's fine with me. If we're breaking the law, then let us know. Donna?
yeah, I would like to have Vika just ask Natalie the question is, if something happens and an employee is driving one of these vehicles that can't be inspected, would we be liable? It's one thing to,
They're insured, so we would be covered under the insurance.
I know, but I mean, are we on a slippery slope? I guess that's what I'm.
Yeah, fine. Go ahead, Bo.
But is the license plate on it municipal? Then it needs to be inspected.
My only
Did you-
concern with you yanking that money out of it is I know when that 4Runner was purchased, it was a little over $8,000 for a used vehicle. And so if for any reason something were to happen to that 4Runner and it dies and it's gone, you're left with $3,200 to spend on a new, vehicle, and that might create an issue. So I think it would be a terrible thing to have a cushion in there just in case, because that is, you can't, the old cop car is, I think
Okay.
it's kind of silly that we even have it.
Thank you, Bo.
So
and
the
then
ration- the
Jim.
rationale for the 5,000 was so that we can build up a fund so that if we do have to replace a vehicle.
That's how he explained it to me. He didn't have a specific plan, so. Go ahead, Jen.
I was just curious, if you have to have, why does it have to have a municipal plate on it? can it be just like another island car and just just be registered, not inspected? Is it to do with state law?
Insurance. It's covered under our insurance, so it ends up being a municipal vehicle because we're insured through a Maine Municipal Association, so it's kind of one big umbrella.
And there's
And that's
no,
kind of,
because we're on an island, that just seems kind of,
I can look into it and ask, but I don't know, because there's only 5 islands in the state that have, island use exception, and I don't know that if Maine Municipal would really accommodate, so few islands within that exception, so.
From what I
My guess would
understood,
be no, but I can definitely look into it.
what I understood at the time that that was put into place is that if you didn't have an inspection station, it still had to be inspectable. I mean, it couldn't be, it had to be able to pass inspection.
Well, they're not doing a good job with that one, but anyway, what about the $5,000?
I think that we should, I mean, the reason we're doing this, we don't have to have a specific thing in mind. We know that sometime we're gonna have to replace a vehicle. What Vika's is describing now is something that tomorrow might not work. And we don't have a backup because of the police vehicle.
Okay. Jay and Bo, do you guys have a position on this?
I'm a yes on the 5,000.
Keeping it?
Yes.
Jay?
Yeah, I think keeping the 5 makes some sense.
Yeah, okay. So at least 3 of us think that, and I'm kind of back there too. Any more comments or questions on that one before we leave it?
Do you guys want me to look into, contacting either Maine Municipal or Natalie about the, liability of drawing vehicles that aren't inspected on the island?
I would like you to do just in general, don't like raise a flag or whatever, but
Don't tell her what you're driving. Go ahead, Jay.
I was gonna say, I think it'd be a good idea to call Maine Municipal if they're the holders of our insurance to
Yeah,
find out.
that was gonna be my first step, is email Maine Municipal and ask them.
Because if somebody were to get hurt driving an unregistered vehicle, does that void the insurance in the case of that vehicle?
I just want to clarify, they're all registered and they are all insured. It's just having that
Sorry.
municipal license plate on it. So there's kind of a couple different components.
And the brake light goes on and off. No. Okay, we're gonna leave the 5,000 in for now. That takes care of that item. Next item is 9045. This is the reevaluation reserve. Current balance 54,900. They are estimating a rough cost of the process at around $75,000 in fiscal year 2023. And we are recommending right now $20,100 in this line for 2023. Comments and questions, please. Go
I
ahead.
would just go back to the 22. I mean, that's cutting it too close. If they're estimating 75,000 and we're saying we'll have 75,000. I mean, I don't know.
So what are you saying?
I'm saying we've been putting 20,200. Now we're doing 20,100 just so we come to exactly 75,000. I mean, I don't care one way or the other really, but I just want to make sure we have enough money and that they don't have to come back to the well for you guys next winter when you might have some other issues in contingency.
Vika, you probably haven't had much of a chance to chat with Jackie to get her opinion on how we're doing.
I've talked to her about it and she thinks it's a good idea that you guys are setting money aside. And on a separate note, I've gotten a quote to, like you had asked me, to get the tax maps updated. So I did talk to her.
Okay.
So would the tax maps update come out of that as well?
No, the tax maps is something that I was gonna through the assessor's budget, you
Oh, okay.
already set the money aside, and it's just it needs a little bit more, so the next draft budget discussion we were gonna have, I was gonna share that quote with you.
Okay, that'll be the operational.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm good with this amount. Anybody else?
I'm good with it.
Okay. Thank you. Next item is 9050. This is the paving, current balance 200 and I want to make sure I get the correct balance. Is it $226,000 still in there, Vika?
Let me, hold on, I have the wrong paperwork in front of
The
me.
balance. I'm
Looks like
looking at
underneath.
220.
So, yeah, and this is my fault again. When I printed out this capital reserve through Trio, I forgot to make the corrections on the comments.
Yeah.
And so the current balance is 185,216.
Sorry.
Thank you. So out of that 185, 215, is that what you said?
216, yep.
Yeah, we will owe on the current chip sealing contract, right around $151,000 balance. So that's only gonna leave, 30,000 in there. The new contract that's proposed right now is $137,218 for paving Chandler's Cove Wharf, Chandler's Cove Road, Old Cart Road, tops of Fenderson, and
Cabs.
Caps Road. Thank you. So proposes 175,000. Comments and questions from people?
But they're only charging us 135?
I may have the wrong amount. I may have an old contract. It's around,
Right,
it's just under $140,000 for the Chandler's Cove Road, the Old Cart Road, tops of Caps and Fenderson.
And does that include barging?
That includes,
No,
yeah, yes. Comments and questions on the proposed $175,000.
So that would give us at the end of the year after we do the other one. Do we have to put 51,000 with that to do the first contract? Is that right? Can you go back? I'm kind of confused.
Yeah. So last year, go ahead, Bo.
So if you add last year's contract for 191 and change, that was the updated number. And then the 139, whatever. So, and that's $330,000 minus our existing, what we have is $186,000. Leaves $144,000 that we have to come up with.
Yeah, it's really another 5,000 or 6,000 over that, Bo, with cost increase. So it's really a balance due of about 150,000. Isn't that accurate, Vika?
yes. Yep,
Okay, so then that would leave us 25,000 in that account at the end, right? After we do those two projects?
That's
yep,
about right.
yeah, it's, so this 175 proposed is based off of the discussion that you had, that very first brief capital improvement discussion we had.
Right.
You guys agreed to put that in based on these, the work that's anticipated to be done, and then still have a small cushion for, if prices adjust and go up.
Go ahead, Bo.
I'm fine with the number as long as it doesn't affect our bottom line in the long run. If we got to adjust numbers to try to keep the budget flat, I think this would be one to revisit.
Yeah. Thank you. Anybody else?
Well, I'd just like to thank you guys for for staying on top of this, because we're almost at the end.
Well, we tried to stay on top of it, Donna, but unfortunately we weren't able to get the chip sealing done last year, and it cost us $5,000, but that's the way life can go.
Yeah.
So are we leaving this one alone for now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next one is 9055. This is Public Works Equipment. Current balance, $20,300. Proposed for 2023 is $35,000. Questions and comments on this one?
I can't
Jay.
remember why we put in 30.
Jay, go ahead and then Bo.
Okay. We're either gonna have to replace and or do some serious repair work on the gray truck. Although every time it goes past my house, it's going 30 miles an hour and throwing a lot of snow without seeming to budge anywhere. But having looked at it, it's gonna need some help and some work and or replacement. The other issue is they've got this antique tractor that they've been using that we're going to have to we're probably going to have to replace. The other thing is we need for the sweeper attachment, and they would like to get a mowing attachment, which is on a hydraulic arm that you can move anything to trim trees to grass with. So, and that could be a fair chunk of change. I think Justin was looking at one for 80,000. My personal thought is it could probably be done for a fair amount less, but that's something we have to look into. So adding 35, I think, is a minimum. If we wanted to go to 50, that wouldn't be a terrible thing either.
The
Is
one
that
thing
all?
you do want to keep in mind is, almost $22,000 of that 35 that you're adding is going to be the payment for the new plow truck for the next 5+6 years. So when you say that this $35,000, you're not just setting $35,000 aside with an anticipation of a new car. A part of this 35 is the payment that we have lined up with the bond bank for the new vehicle that we just got.
So Vika, that's not over in debt service?
Yeah.
I didn't
That-
think
that
so,
line-
but
That
Hold
line
on.
is over in debt service in the
nope, I think,
operational.
nope, you're right.
budget.
You're right. Sorry I said anything. You're
Yeah,
right.
just under 22,000 for 6 years.
Oh, you're
Um,
right.
Bo, did you have something?
I just think, I agree with Jay, something needs to get done with the gray truck, and I think 35 would be adequate to fix anything, and then maybe give us some kind of down payment on another vehicle if we choose. Trying to save up for something we don't have a plan or an accurate number, I think we need to go for either another bank loan or bond for that
Yeah,
if we buy bigger equipment.
thank you, Bo. Go ahead, Donna.
I would like to propose that we do buy a tractor that's a sweeper and a mower or whatever, and that we try to get something and try to finance it at whatever the cost that we're paying every year for rental, and see how many, maybe it would be a 10-year or whatever. We're putting, like, in the regular budget, every single year we're throwing away $8,000 or $9,000 plus the barging to get it over here. And to me, it seems as if we had it here, they could do more on the sides of the road. The trees are dying on the sides of the road. If they can limit, make it better. To me, it just seems as if we should own a piece of equipment as opposed to just renting it. And if we could keep it pretty flat, or, maybe just a little bit more, in the long run, I think we'd be better off as a town.
Yeah, I agree with that. Anybody else? Jen?
I would agree with Jay and increase it to a $50,000. I think it makes sense because we're definitely there needs to be a plan if it's not just specifically on paper yet, but they, when we discussed it with them, and they showed us their needs, they're definitely legit. So that's where I'm.
So you guys are proposing 50 instead of 35, is that accurate?
Mhm.
Thank you. I can go along with that. I would also like to suggest that Vicar, in your spare time, I know you have all kinds of spare time with your new position. Maybe you could help do some research with Chuck and Doug, your Public Works Division, about the possibilities of what the machine might be, what it might cost, the options of buying, leasing to own, et cetera, for us. Does that make sense to
It
everyone?
does. So I just want to clarify, we kind of had two different discussions that merged into one. So there's the discussion about the tractor, and then there's the discussion about the current gray F-250 that is going to need to be replaced. So can we just clarify that we're going to do the research on the original proposal, which I think Justin had given you last year, was like a brand new John Deere, which was 80-some thousand dollars.
Yeah.
So you
I can
want,
only- I can only give you my perspective, and then everybody else can chime in. I would like to see priority go to possibly securing a machine that could do mowing and sweeping and grading, light raking of the dirt roads, and that the gray vehicle, we look into sort of, like Jay said, can we fix it up, get a little more time out of it? And then eventually we know that we're going to have to replace that vehicle next. But I would like to see priority on the bigger mowing so that we can get that $10,000 a year off of our rental. Anybody else? Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that. I would love to find out, we've got several pieces of equipment that we ought to be selling. As in, if that antique trailer, tractor is, has antique value and we can get something out of it, we should go ahead and do so. Same with one of the plow truck with the cracked frame has got a very expensive plow system and a lot of expensive equipment on it. So that could be sold and we can get some money there to start to offset, potentially some of these other expenses.
I'm coming back and then planning to take.
I looked into the antique tractor, and unfortunately, I was open for more, but it would go around like $2,000, which it's still, $2,000, but I was thinking that it would be a little bit higher. And I just, with the current plow with the cracked frame that we have, I hope that we don't run too fast to try to sell it this winter, just because it has come in useful with our brand new truck breaking down a couple of times. And so I'd like to see us get through the winter first before we start the plans of getting rid of that just yet. But I think that you're right. That's where most of the money that we can get would be. And we can turn around and use some of the money for some of this other stuff that's needed.
That makes perfect sense. Are we good with the $50,000 proposed, guys?
I think so. Could I ask Jen and Jay a question? Because they did that tour of the town garage, and I've never even hardly been up there. What do you see on the horizon after the gray truck?
I'm sorry, what do you mean?
What do you see the next thing they need after the gray truck? I mean, what's there and how much is that? And how imminent is it? And should we be starting to think about that as well?
Tractor.
The two issues they were concerned about were replacing the tractor
Okay.
with all the expensive attachments.
Yeah.
And secondly, and the other issue was the gray truck.
Okay. They didn't have another one after that. That was basically the priorities. Okay. Thank you.
That was going to cover them.
Okay. Thank you.
And Jay and Jen, and Vika, do they feel that if we purchase a new tractor, there's room enough in that existing building to store it?
Yeah. For their equipment, they'll find space.
Gotcha. Thank you. Any more comments on the 50,000 proposed for this before we move on? Vika, are you clear on this division for now, on this?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is 9057. This is recycling compactor. Current balance is $5. Nothing proposed. Go ahead, Bo.
I'd like to propose at least putting in $1,000 to start a fund to replace a compactor in the future. Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, if we put in $1,000 here and there, it'll alleviate some of the money if we have to.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I'm good with that unless you wanted to make it 5. but 1,000 it is.
I'd go with Bo and start with 1,000.
Okay, go ahead, Jen.
I don't know anything about the year, how old they are, up at the town, at the dump, how they new, are they old, are they?
Well, the recycling ones are newer, certainly. We've replaced 1 or 2 of the municipal waste compactors. And I believe those were 15 plus
Yep.
$1,000 a piece. I don't know what they would cost today. We have one pretty new recycling compactor within the last 3 years, I'm gonna say. The other one, I don't know the age of. That's all that I know, Jen.
How long do they usually last?
I don't know that I could answer that question. Probably how much you use them, what you're compacting. I don't know. You'd have to get an answer from somebody.
I think that we got the older recycling one at the latest in 2010 or 11. That would be my guess. It was sometime between, we didn't start out that way. We had, a place where you could just dump your stuff universal. And then we realized how much it was costing. And so sometime in that period of time, probably close to 2011 or so. So it's probably 10 years old at least. That's my guess.
Well, go ahead.
Are the compactors still on an annual inspection?
I believe so, but I don't know whether they were inspected last year or not. I'll look into it.
Okay.
Jen, go ahead.
And aren't we having some sort of study done about the whole makeup and flow of things? So
Yeah.
I guess I have more information before we put any money in anything, and have a plan.
Okay, we need, I think we have 2 people that are good with 1,000. Donna, where are you?
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Okay. So for now, we're gonna put $1,000 into 9057. Any more comments on that one? Thank you. Next one on page 2 of your budget, custom budget expense report is easements and drainage, 9058. Current balance, $71,700. Proposed for 2023 is $10,000. Comments and questions on this one, please.
My question is, what's our plan for doing the work at Firehouse Road? This has been hanging out there for a long time. And every year it's going to cost more money because, it's like money in the bank for who's ever doing it.
Okay, go ahead, Bo.
I'm doing it. So it's gonna be it's gonna be March, April when I'm there. I'll get it done. Sorry, it
And
took too long. I
we're
don't-
still waiting for the easement signatures for caps, right?
Last I knew,
believe-
yes.
So those were the projects I had was caps and then the Julian Melconian. I mean, I don't think the Melconian job will cost a significant amount. It's just adding a culvert.
Yeah.
I'm guessing around $6,000 maybe total, if that. The Caps Road, I don't even know. It all depends what the town does. So.
Yeah, because that was part of the deal that the road crew is going to do part of it. But we're going to have a clerk of the works or somebody who, but until we get those papers signed, we can't even do anything. So. All right, thank you. I didn't mean to derail it. I just wanted to know where we were and if
It's
we had
okay.
enough money.
So
any more, go ahead.
the only thing I was questioning about that is the drainage. I'm talking about Indian Point Road, the
Yeah.
same thing. That's a drainage issue there. Does the road, because the Indian Point retaining wall, does that just include the retaining wall, or does that do the road also? Because we're responsible for the road, i.e. drainage off the road, yada, yada, yada.
I think
So
I
just
think-
wondering. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just thinking that it's part of the whole project. You know, the retaining wall is holding the road, so you got to fix the road to, as part of it.
Yeah, I would agree, Donna.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think that would be this specific line. item. Was that
It
your
wouldn't be under
question? Bob?
easements and drainage.
Yeah.
No, it wouldn't be under easements and drainage.
Okay. Just wanted a clarification.
Jen, go ahead.
So it says in easements and drainage that we have, was it almost 72,000? So 71, 815, 57.
Yep.
And, everything I've heard Bo talk about, that seems like an awful lot of money for those projects. And we don't even know how much the other ones are going to be. So why so much more money into them?
We have estimates on all of these.
Okay.
One of them, like the Caps Road one, the homeowners are going to pay for half of it, but it's something like $60,000 or something. I don't have my paperwork here, but we've got it in the town office.
Yeah.
And the other one down at, behind the Calder House that goes down through there. Bo, you probably have an idea on how much is that one?
The Calder House?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's 30,000.
So that one's going to be 30,000. So by the time you look at those two, and then, the Melconian one, and then having some in there in case we have an emergency.
And
I
are
guess
these
that-
all to be done this year?
The Firehouse
This
one is
is
going to be
done-
done this year. The other
And
ones are
probably
waiting.
Caps too, and Melconian. Yeah. They should have been, some of them should have been done last year, but
Yeah.
Where are we at with this proposed 10,000 folks?
I'm okay with the 10.
I'm okay with the 10.
Jen, sounded like you were questioning it. Where are you at, Jay?
I'm less enthusiastic for adding it in because quite frankly, the odds of getting the Caps easements are somewhere between slim and none.
Really?
Well, it's the neighborhood.
Well, that's unfortunate. It's been a lot of work done, and I was hoping we could come to a conclusion.
Well, yeah, but how long have we been waiting for those easements to be signed?
I have
Well over a year.
the paperwork that I was left with when Justin left were some additional things that Mr. Hubble wanted to review, and I sent that information to Natalie. And she actually just last week sent the information back to me. So hopefully, if they like it, they can sign it sooner than later.
Oh, okay. So we had to have more legal review then. So they haven't been holding it. It's just that they haven't actually got the final yet. Okay.
Yes, I sent it to Natalie when I first started, and then I checked in with her a couple weeks ago, and she just completely spaced on it and
Okay.
missed it. And so she looked at it, and I just got it. So progress.
Thank you.
Anything from the Tonks?
Well, it hasn't gotten to that point yet. They haven't even seen it yet because we're just getting it back from the town attorney, right, Vika?
Yes.
Well, they had seen the previous one and been resistant is the
Yeah.
phrase I would use.
Well, I'm kind of in the same camp as Jay. This drainage easement stuff starting to irritate me, especially funding it, but at least we're closing in on getting the one done by Roy Jackson and the old Calder house. I guess for now, I'm gonna go ahead and agree with leaving the 10,000 in there for today. Do we have three of us that agree with that or only two of us? I can't remember.
Yep, 3.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, guys. Any more comments on this before we go to the next one? Thank you. The next one is 9060 Harbor Master Vessel Equipment, current balance 6,500. Proposed is 7,500, but I thought we decided to yank that out of there because we're not prepared to purchase a new motor for this vessel, if anything at all, and we're researching, trying to stay within this existing 6,500. Is that accurate?
Yes,
hard.
I have the harbor master and then another person that's helping me look. So far, no luck. I don't,
Yeah,
not finding anything.
okay. Go ahead, Donna.
I would leave at least a couple of thousand in there because, if we get to the point 65 or 85, it's either that or we never have a boat. I mean, you know what I mean? Either we replace it or we don't replace it. But but with the market the way it is, if we really want to get something, we should have a little bit of leeway. Either that or we just say, okay, we're never going to have a boat again.
I could go along with leaving 1,000 in there. Anybody else with a thought on this?
I'm fine with 1,000.
Yeah, I'm okay with 1,000.
Jen, go ahead.
As you might suspect, I don't think anything should be put in there without a definite plan in place for what's going on. And just because you say you're not going to fund it this year doesn't mean you can't fund it, next year for a boat and whatnot. So I'm a no on that one.
Okay. I'm gonna stay with $1,000. I'm actually trying to find out if we can get a rebuilt 90 horse Mercury. I'm waiting to hear when I do. If I do, we will bring, Gennaro and I will bring that to you guys for consideration. I've made it clear to the individual and to Gennaro that there is a budget and that any used engine should come with some sort of a time warranty, even if it's 6 months. Okay. Anything else on this one? So we're gonna leave 1,000 in there, I think, for now, Vika. Proposed. Next one is 9070. This is the Coastal Access Fund. Current balance $10,800. Nothing proposed for 2023. Comments on this one? Go ahead, Bo.
Just wondering if I can get a definition on that, what the definition we have on it.
The 9070 Coastal Access Fund is easement purchases, capital structure, road, path construction, and repairs facilitating public access to coastal waters and beaches.
I move that we put 10 grand in there. Based on the amount of storms we've been having, the ranch down to Central is getting beaten up. That's going to need some repair. Everywhere you go down to the beach needs repair. So I would put in 10,000.
I would
Okay.
second that, Bo, because we also have in the pipeline a couple of sets of steps that need to go in so people can get down to the shore. And based on what happened with Long Island, their whole waterfront was wiped out. And down at Coleman's Cove, Vika can attest to this. Her father fell down there because of the condition of the road. And so I think that we need to have the flexibility to fix some of these places so that people can have access.
Other comments or questions, Jay or Jen? Go ahead, Jen.
You have $10,830.61 in that fund currently.
Yes.
That's right.
That's a lot of wooden steps.
It's not just that.
I'm gonna go for that contract.
It's not solely for steps, but this encompasses all stuff. That's why I had her read the thing, because it can go to Bennett fixing over there, could go to the Stone Pier to fix that. That's all coastal access. It just give us a lot of leeway,
It would, could
flexibility.
go, yeah, and it could go to down at Chandler's Cove, where we need to have some way for the pedestrians to get over that stream. And we need to somehow put a sign up there to have people stop driving onto the beach down at Chandler's over that dune in their cars, because that's not helping. And so if we could stop the driving onto the beach and put something like a ramp with railings that people could walk over just seasonally, or tie it to a tree, and there was a storm, pull it up for the winter, it would make it accessible to people who can't get to other places. So there's a bunch of things, if the town is serious about making the shoreline accessible to everyone.
Jay, I would like to jog your memory on a grant possibility that you brought up that may apply to the shore access. Do you remember bringing that up at our last meeting?
Well, we've already applied for it. We will hear the preliminary answer March 7th, I think,
Okay,
or sometime in the first week of March, they will let us know whether they're going to pursue it. But that was strictly for the stone wharf.
gotcha. Sorry about that.
Yeah, that was more of fishermen, fishermen related access.
It was commercial access to the waterfront.
Yeah. I'm not in favor of $10,000 in here. I don't know that we have a good plan. As far as Chandler's Cove goes, I don't disagree with Donna. I think there should be signs put up at some point, no motorized vehicles beyond this point down at the bottom of the hill on the right, where that dune and possibly protected stream is. But I think the main public access remains on the other path to the left as you're looking at the beach, and that could be the main access for the public. It doesn't need to be two accesses for the public. And as far as a ramp goes, it's pretty cheap to build a pressure treated ramp with some railing, or the town could take the old aluminum ramp that's been sitting in the bushes up at the town garage yard and set that down there. It's all pre-made 30 or 40 foot railing. I'm just saying.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But for people we have some elderly people who can't go up and down stairs. That's my point, to have something that was accessible by having an alternate. The other thing is, Jason and I last spring walked down at Chandler's and no work was done, but there needs to be railings down there. There are broken boards on the ramps when you get down to the bottom that needs to be replaced.
Yeah.
It's part of what we don't do in this town is we don't do regular maintenance. We're not reviewing, what we have, and things start to deteriorate.
So I'm just saying, I can't go along with $10,000 more dollars.
Can you go along with 5?
Yeah, I could go along with 5, but at some point, and I don't mean to put more pressure on our new leader, but at some point I would like to hear, Vika, that we are looking at access and coming up with a plan to repair the dirt ramps at Coleman Cove, Central Landing, looking at how people are getting up and down the beach and across the ways at Chandler's, and, within reason. So I'll go along with $5,000.
Yeah, I'm fine with 5.
Yeah, I'm fine with 5.
Any more
And I do
questions or
agree.
comments on this specific item?
I agree with Mark. I'm fine with 5,000, but we need to see some kind of progress.
I mean, every
It's
town
not the
administrator
first
that we've
time we talked
had,
about
I just want to go on the record, except for Vika, because I haven't had a chance to do it because she came in the winter. I've taken them around to look at all of these places, the ones that we have committed to make steps and everything else. And I don't know how to get it done. I mean, I could make a list right now and I could make a work plan, but you know, we just need to get it done. So maybe I can work with Vika in the spring and we can go around it and, look again. And
If you
just
have a list, just put them in alphabetical order and start from the top.
yeah. And I think Justin was focused on doing this, but he wasn't here long enough to see it through.
Thank you, Bo. Go ahead.
I would say a good starting step would be to get a list together and then get with the code officer.
Yes, we definitely have to do that.
What can do.
Thank you.
'Cause I think
Anything else on this item?
No.
Okay, thank you. next one is 9195. This is Indian Point retaining wall, current balance $70,300. Nothing proposed for 2023. Comments, questions? Go ahead, Donna.
Yeah, if you remember correctly, last June, we voted to take $10,000 out that was left over in the Selectmen's contingency to go toward this. Come to find out, the wording of the motion was not accurate. It wasn't worded the way it was supposed to. And so that couldn't happen, but no one ever told us until Justin forgot to tell us about it. And so Vika and I researched this last week and we found that that money was never transferred. And so this should have 10,000 more than it does. So I'm going to suggest that we add 10,000 this year.
Anybody else? Bo, go ahead.
Have we seen any kind of plan or any kind of anything for?
Vika and I have been on numerous meetings with them and they're almost at the point of, they've done a lot of surveys and stuff. Right now they're doing, they've been in touch with DEP. They've been in touch with the Army Corps. They've been in touch with Pete Slavinsky, and they've got a plan that they're going to come forward with.
But they've been almost there since May. So
No, they
I'm
haven't.
just
No.
wondering. It's been a while since
Because they have
every
to-
time we talk to them, they're almost there. So I just
I'm just saying
wondering.
that they just had all those meetings with those regulators.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I know it takes time, but it just.
Vika and then Jay. I think you're muted, Vika.
Whoops. From my perspective, I just want to say that since I've started, I have had a number of meetings with them. So I don't know about how much progress was made before, but I have had a lot of involvement in it. And on Monday, and it's something I need to text you, Bo, about, is we're going to meet down there in the afternoon with the code enforcement officer to see what and can be done. And so I think in the next couple of weeks, there's going to be a lot of progress moving forward.
Thank you, Vika. Go ahead, Jay.
I don't think we ought to add any money to this until we've got a plan. I'm not particularly in agreement with it regardless, but at least let's have a plan. It's a plan we've been waiting for, as Bo points out, for 9-10 months now. This was supposed to be something we were having done very quickly. And, we haven't heard boo. I gather the folks in Indian Island group have had a couple of meetings with Barney Baker. We haven't heard anything. So I wouldn't put another dime in until we've got an actual plan and make the decision that we're actually going to go ahead with.
I think we
thank-
did have a presentation last fall by Bonnie Baker.
Thank you. I'm not gung-ho to put money into this either. I would rather see a movement towards some sort of a plan where we're going to be able to park cars up high. I think that's gonna be the only option for accessing this area long term at least, but we haven't seen anything, so I'm good with where it is for now. Anybody else? All set?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, believe in it.
So that concludes the list that was in your packet. You also have the comprehensive list, which is the Machias Savings Bank. Sorry, out of focus. The Machias Savings Bank, which is every reserve account that we have in this town with the existing balance and the ending balance, which includes any withdrawals or deposits. Any other questions from the town administrator or any select people on any reserve accounts of any kind?
I'd just like to make an observation. If you look at the value of the library and its capital and all of its investments, we're less than $500,000 ahead of them. So they're pretty soon the library is going to be in charge of the town when it comes to savings. I mean, no, that's counting their building and everything. I mean, I was just being facetious.
I'm not
But I
sure
think
I'm not sure they've had the infrastructure challenges we've had, but.
Yeah,
that's
no.
okay. That's a good comment. Anybody with anything specific?
I mean, I think this is prudent to be saving this, so that when we have projects that we can figure it out and that we are, I think since we've become a town, we've tried to do that as much as we can. We've had emergencies
Yeah,
in fire department and stuff, and we've had to, go back to the voters, but I think that it's prudent to save and figure it out on what to do.
Vika, do you feel that you're good? You don't have to show us today, but you feel that you're good with this existing proposed capital improvement budgeting list for 2023, and that you can show us at some point where we are from last year?
Yes, so what I'll do at the beginning of next week is I will add this into Trio. And then next Wednesday, when we're gonna have our fire department budget discussion, I'll
Yep.
print out the entire budget for you, so you'll see numbers wise how everything we've talked about kind of comes together, so you'll get to see that.
Mark, can I ask Speaker one question?
Sure, go ahead.
And so you're going to work with, meet with Chuck and Doug and whomever to look at what the options are and come back at some point with a proposal for us as to the difference between renting and buying a piece of equipment?
Yes, I'll touch base with them at the beginning of next week and then try to have that to you by next selectmen's meeting.
And it could be the meeting after. I mean, that's.
Well, no, I don't mean like this Wednesday's meeting.
Oh, okay,
The
okay.
following
Yeah. I was
one.
gonna say, you
You're
don't
not
have-
getting anything for this Wednesday, sorry.
I didn't mean to have you do it.
Go ahead, Bo.
Have you posting at the store saying that the next meeting is going to be Zoom? I thought we were going to try to do it live.
No, we said is that what we said we were gonna do? I thought we were gonna talk about it. That's my fault.
I think where we left it was we're going to do the next meeting Zoom. And I think Vika asked us to consider finishing out the month of February. And then when we get into March, I guess next week is March, excuse me for that comment. I guess the goal was after next meeting. Is that? I think
What we were waiting for
I
was that she would have figured out how to make it hybrid. That's really the
Yeah,
issue.
I think we're gonna decide that Wednesday. Go ahead, Jen.
I just remember that we were talking about this meeting was going to be Zoom and our next meeting was going to be in person, and we weren't sure about how we were going to do the owl thing. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's correct. Excuse me, Jen.
yeah.
You're accurate.
And so it's my fault, and I'll own that. But I think that we need to, I didn't want to put a lot of pressure on Vika. Did you have you had a chance to talk about that, Vika? Figuring
I've
that-
touched base with Melissa at the church, and all she does is she just sets up Zoom, so she doesn't do anything out
Well,
of
she
the
has a
ordinary.
projector. She has a projector where the people, you can see the people's faces who are.
Yeah,
in
and
the
she
room.
she connects Zoom to the projector, and that's
Right.
how she does it. So with us, if we try to do something like that, it's, we need a projector, we need to do a few other things. I think that going forward, just if you want to go in person and start in person, to use the owl and have it be broadcasted to YouTube the way it's been done. I think the decision you're going to need to make is the level of involvement and how you would want to involve the audience, because while Melissa involves the audience in the church, past meetings, Board of Selectmen, people could hear in, but they couldn't really have a level of participation that you would with in-person individuals. And so that's kind of the biggest decision making that needs to be done by the selectmen.
Okay, so why don't we talk about that in that agenda item? That, because right now people can call in, and if we do the owl, they can't call in.
So it's
If you
Wednesday,
go in person right now with the owl and hooking up Zoom, people can listen in, but they will not be able to have,
Yeah.
an involvement. And so that's something that needs to
And
be
that's,
decided.
and that's what my concern is.
so it's Wednesday Zoom.
Yes, because
Okay,
we've already
Bo,
advertised it. So
Bo, go ahead.
I apologize.
So I'm fine with it. I just needed to know what we were doing. But the other thing that I think we asked Justin or Marjorie, if we're all at the meeting, it's got to be the Zoom people can't participate. But if one of us is at our house for some reason, and it has to be a good reason, not just because we wanted to stay at our house, but then the people on Zoom can participate.
I think we
So
may have changed that. I think I may have changed it, Bo. So Vika
Maybe.
probably needs to research that too.
The
All right.
challenge that you have to keep in mind is, if you include, because right now I'm sitting at the computer and I'm looking at the attendees and, pushing the buttons and allowing people to speak and things like that, while also writing notes and trying to answer your questions. If we're in person and we're doing the participation and allowing people to participate that are accessing to Zoom, we're really going to have to involve somebody else who is going to manage and coordinate that, because I'm not going to be able to be present for you at the selectmen's meeting in person, but also sit in front of a computer and pay attention to the computer. And so that, with the participation and allowing people who are logging into Zoom into a live meeting to participate, we're going to have somebody who is going to be doing kind of the technical part of that stuff, because I'm not going to be able to do all that.
So if we went in that direction, and if we called on, whoever's the chairman, I mean, I can see if I have something in front of me, whether somebody's got their hand up. But could Chris do that? If we say, is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak? Could she
But
be?
Chris is taking minutes. I just think that if we go in person, I think that if you want to have people participate through Zoom, we really need to have a person that's going to
Okay.
be dealing with all the technical stuff. I don't want to put that on Chris, because she works really hard to keep all the minutes going. And I'm being honest, I'm not going to be able to physically be in there in person. I'm not going to be able to deal with the Zoom part and be able to give you all the information without getting flustered and not being able to catch up with it. Having here right now in front of me is a different story, but if we do it in person, we're going to need another person to help us with that, if you want to include the people who Zoom in to participate. Or you could just leave it as, if you want to participate, you come. If you want to listen in, then you can listen in. So
Okay, so that gives
Let's
us,
have this debate another time, please.
well, that's what I was just gonna
Make
say.
your point.
It gives us something to think about between now and Wednesday. And I apologize for getting mixed up. I'm sorry.
No problem. So I'm gonna go over the existing 2023 budget schedule with you. Obviously, this is the February 26th workshop. The next one is, next discussion of budget is next Wednesday night, obviously, and that has been modified to pretty much focus on the fire department requests specifically. Is that accurate, Donna?
Yes.
You agree with that, Vika?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
That's the way we
So-
posted it.
So in other words, your meeting schedule is not quite accurate. It says third draft of budget presented. So you're going to not really get the third draft completed, presented to you next Wednesday night.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give you, based on everything that we've talked about, I will
Yeah.
give you the third draft. We're not gonna be discussing anything except for fire department.
That's what it sounds like to me. I just want to make sure. Jen, go ahead.
I just wanted to remind you that we really didn't do a second draft because that was that long meeting and we all said we were done. And so we're kind of a step back. So I think that's the second draft that we would be getting.
Yeah, I would agree with that,
I
actually.
think so.
We've only hammered through the departmental budgets once.
Can I
Um,
make a suggestion? Not that I want to have more Zoom meetings, but can we do a Zoom meeting on Wednesday, the 9th, and have that be just a budget workshop without anything else added onto it? So then that way the budget workshop that we're missing next Wednesday for, the full budget could be discussed on its own.
I'll go
Okay,
along with, I'll go along with it under one condition. That the
Time
meeting-
limit.
That the meeting goes no longer than an hour and a half to 2 hours, because after that, you get fatigued in the evening. So we should be able to zip through these departments except for possibly the biggest proposed increase one, which may
Well,
be.
and that's why we're gonna be discussing, that's why on this next Wednesday, the budget will focus only on the fire department. I just got an email from Steve, so I have all that information. I will gather it to you. You will have it on Monday to
Okay.
really thoroughly look through that, and then that will help you have a little bit better understanding. And that's why we can focus just on the fire department Wednesday, and then if we could do a meeting the following Wednesday and go over, the full budget where we stand right now in all the departments, that might, make the process a little bit quicker.
Yeah, so what I would suggest if we decide to have a meeting on the 9th is that you look at your departmental budgets and you be prepared to make any recommendations of any adjustments specifically very quickly, and that we don't spend too much more time on each department as far as how the department functions. It's really budget money. Go ahead, Jen.
I'm sorry you missed me on the last one, but when we were talking about capital improvements and we have all the lists, and I
Yeah.
think it's really important that there be a line in there for the stone wharf, because I think the community's so focused on getting it done. And I would propose that we have a line that says, funding for the stone wharf. It shows what amount we have in there, which is, according to the Machias thing, it's 202,006 and some change.
Yep.
And I would propose that we add 50,000 to that.
Okay.
I would go along with that, and I think it might be a good idea to get just an estimate. I mean, we can ask Wright Pierce what a final design costs, just to get a ballpark to make sure that's enough, because hopefully in the next year, where, once we get through this, we'll be ready to ask somebody to create a final design. And we
Okay.
want, I know Herb estimated it could be 300,000, which is what we had in there. And but I don't know if that was just the final design or if that was the preliminary designs and everything else. And everything's gone up since we came up with those numbers in like 2018 or 19.
I think it was everything. And I'm sorry, Jen, was that 60,000?
50.
You're asking to add 50,000 into the Stone Wharf capital?
Yes.
Okay, the proposal is 50,000. I'm good with it.
I'm good.
Okay,
Yep.
all set? Are we good for today, guys?
I think so. Thank you very much. Good job,
Yeah,
Mark.
Thank you for your patience. Sorry to push you, but somebody has to be pushy.
But thank you for having this because now we don't feel guilty that we didn't jump in the cold ocean today.
Before we leave, are we proposing a departmental budget meeting on the 9th?
Yes.
I'm okay with it.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you. Thank you, Vika.
And Vika, can you add that to your report so we don't forget to create an agenda?
Yes, on Wednesday, yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Bye all.